Hey YouTube, you ever search the internet for 808 samples, you download a bunch, and then you find out of all the packs you downloaded, none of them actually really hit? Well, today we're going to get into Serum. I'm going to teach you guys how to do some sound design to make your own 808 samples for electronic and hip-hop music. Let's get into it. Okay, so we have loaded up a FL session here. We've got some vocal chops, some chords, an ARP, some drums, and of course the 808 that we will be creating today. I've gone ahead and printed it out as a sample so it can be used in future sessions without having to load up Serum. So it sounds pretty good. That will be what we are making today. So let's hear it actually in the context of everything. So you can hear that it's pretty rich in those sort of sub 200 hertz frequencies, which makes it cut through on a phone, as well as those sub 100 hertz that lets it hit hard on bigger speaker systems. So let's go ahead and copy that pattern. We're going to disable this. We're going to load up an instance of Serum. Let's go into a new pattern that is spanning the length of the track. I'm going to put Serum on track 18. Let's check if I have any mixing on there. Nope, I do not. So that's good to go. We're going to do Control V to paste this in. And one thing we're going to want to do is make sure these this pattern here has a good length for the 808 sample, so that it can kind of ring out and do its thing. I'm also just going to go ahead and cut off the tail of this last one so that we don't have anything weird happening in terms of the beats. So let's go ahead and open up Serum. Serum gives you access to 2 oscillators plus a sub oscillator, a noise generator, which allows you to essentially add in some type of wave file sample on top of things, a filter section, 3 envelopes, and 4 oscillators, which allow you to dynamically change all the sort of knobs you have here in Serum. So first things first, let's go ahead, switch our first oscillator to basic shapes. This is going to allow us to change the wavetable position to this square one we can see here. So I just can view all the wavetable positions by clicking on the image here. We're going to change the wavetable position to square wave, and this will make it a more aggressive sounding sound. We're also going to tune this down 2 octaves because of course it's an 808. And we will go ahead and see how things sound in the context of everything. So it's sounding pretty brittle, a lot of those high-end frequencies that we don't want. So let's go ahead and turn on the filter. Going to roll back the cutoff something pretty low. We only want to keep the low frequencies. Turn up the drive and the fatness, and this will sort of make the sound thicker. So it's sounding pretty good, but we're noticing that it doesn't really have a punch to it, and it's sort of just stopping immediately when the keyboard is no longer being pressed. So this is what the envelope is for in the case of envelope 1. So we have a quick attack here, so it's going to rise quickly to its max volume. We want it to taper off a bit. We don't want it always staying at full volume, or else it won't actually sound to the ear like it was punchy. You need some drop off there. And then we also want it to take a little while to decay out. So the parameters we have here is the attack, how long it goes to takes to get to the top. The hold, so how long it will stay just straight up at that top level. See, if I stretch this out, you'll see that's a parameter we're not going to use here. The decay, so how long it takes to get down to this next point down here. The sustain, so how loud is that decay point here. And then the release, so after you take your finger off the key, how long does it take for the sound to taper out. So now if we hit play here, we hear it's ringing out pretty well. If you're not really sure when making samples like this, it's best to err on the caution of giving yourself a little bit more release. You can always cut the sample and mess with it later if you're finding that it's ringing out too long in other sessions, but you can't add, it's not super easy to add to something that you've already made and printed out. So that's sounding pretty good already. Let's go ahead and add a sub oscillator that's tuned down 2 octaves as well. So this gives it a low end, which is pretty good. We're gonna pick direct out so that it doesn't get affected by any of the other stuff we're doing later on in the signal chain within the effects section here. Next, let's go ahead and add another oscillator. We're gonna tune this down only 1 octave. And what this is gonna do is we're gonna change it to analog, Juno. We're gonna bring up the unison, so it's gonna make more than one copy of this oscillator, and you can see that they're actually like panned out, and the detune is how much they're panned out. So this is going to make it kind of wider sounding, and we're also going to want this to go through the same filter here. So we've now made sort of those mid frequencies a little bit wider here. We're still cutting out those high ends so that it's really sounding like an 808, sounding pretty good. Next, what we can do is we can apply an envelope. We can have another one going here. And we can apply this to the drive, the fatness, and the cutoff. And if you hover over sort of these blue horseshoe symbols, you can drag up and down to change how much these knobs, these parameters are affected by the envelope you have dragged to them. When I click on other ones, you can see that this one is not applied to any. This one is applied to 3 right now. So when I click on it, you can actually see which ones they're affecting. So that kind of opens up the frequency filter there and lets a little bit more highs through when it initially hits and gives it a bit more punch. So that's sounding pretty good. What we can also do is you can see all of this routing through where you drag it, but you can also see it through the matrix section. So if there's things you want to access and you're not finding it easy to drag them to, you can also do it manually here as well. So we're going to pick envelope 1. We're going to go to global and master tune and tune this up 4. So what this is going to do is every time that envelope 1 is triggered, so when the sample is triggered, it's going to pitch up the whole sound of everything all at once, and that's going to give it sort of that wobbly 808 sound that we're all pretty used to. So that's sounding pretty good already. Let's go ahead and start adding some effects to it. We're going to add some distortion. I don't want to add a ton, so maybe like 20%, and we'll put it on post. We can add a compressor to make it sound a bit thicker by adding some makeup gain. So that's pretty good right there. We can add a filter, and like we did before, we can add another envelope, and this time we can go to the effects section and we can make the filter frequency change with envelope 3. So go back to our oscillators, envelope 3 here. Let's make this actually a bit quicker. Something like that, envelope 3. So this now is going to control the effects section cutoff. And we can do the same thing that we were doing before, where the filter opens up with this third oscillator we've added. So it's sounding pretty good. Let's go ahead and add some noise. So I've gone ahead and put in some of my own samples into Serum here. if you want to do this for yourself, you just go to the menu section and you do show Serum preset folder. In here, you can go to noises. You can make your own folder and put whatever sounds in there. And then it will make it so that Serum has access to those sounds to be triggered with the triggering of all this other oscillators going on. So if I actually just solo this noise, you can hear what this ball kick tone is. It's just a sort of kick that I've added in here. And then that will give it some punchiness as the, to just sort of add to what's going on. So if you're choosing to do this, use this as a synth instead of printing out, you probably want to change it to mono so that when another sound triggers, it cuts off the previous one. I was noticing the sound was sort of bleeding onto the next note. So that's pretty good. If you're going to go ahead and export this yourself, it's a good practice to tune everything to middle C, and then that way you know every time you load up your own samples, you're going to have what tune the 808 is in, and you're going to be able to easily just sort of play it to the you're going to easily be able to add it to your songs in the right key. So that sounds pretty good. The other thing I would do before exporting it is I would do some processing. Here, I'm going to just show you what it sounds like if I pass it through what is typically my sort of 808 chain. We're doing an EQ to sort of scoop out some of those low mids we've added, boost a bit in the actual low end. Wave shaper set to fast distort from the presets here, and that's going to give it some distortion as it clips. Sausage fattener to add 2 bands of color and reduce the gain for all the gain we've added by doing this mixing so far. So some fatness and some color. That's low end saturation and sort of higher end saturation. I'm using transient master to give it more attack and less sustain. Punchier, and then this great plugin called Head Crusher to give it a lot of distortion. So let's hear what each of these do on their own. That's with the EQ, add the wave shaper in. So you can hear it really makes it sort of growl. The sausage fattener, add some color to it. Transient master to make it punchier. Nice. And then the Head Crusher, which again sort of saturates and distorts it. Really a recommended plugin in my books, that is. So from there, you can go ahead and export it, like using the FL export here, like I've done, and you can go ahead and put it within the context of your tracks. Something you might also want to consider is using Imager, where we can turn this on and we can reduce the width of the various bands here, and that'll make it more mono and really work well for subspeakers. So once we've gone ahead and exported it, it can be used in sessions like we were just doing at the top of the video, and it'll sound something like this. So it's sounding pretty good. So hopefully this was pretty useful for you guys to make your own samples and kind of figure out the early steps to sound design. So if you guys really enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe so that you can keep up to date with all the other stuff I will be dropping in the near future. So thanks.